मैकेंजी से कॉल आया था कि सही बड़ी कंपनी है ना, पर दूसरी प्रोफाइल है, वो मेरी बड़ी प्रोफाइल है, बट मैंने इतना ज्यादा इसलिए रिज्यूम में ना चेंज नहीं किया, क्योंकि नहीं पता इन बड़ी कंपनियों में क्या होता है कि झूठ मत बोलो, ये बोल दो कि तुमने ये सब किया है और तुम ये सब सीख लोगे, तो ना वो बंदा स्मार्ट होता है ना उस वो हाँ तो हाँ तो मैं उसको बोल दूंगी। और अगर वो वैकेंसी उस कंपनी में होती है कम्युनिकेशन और स्मार्टनेस है, तो ट्रेनिंग तो वो देते ही है, इसलिए मैं उस बेसिस पे ट्राई कर रही हूँ। मैं उसको यही बोलूंगी कि मैंने यहाँ पे टीम खड़ी करी है, मेरे पास वो वाला ये एक्सपीरियंस है और मैं फोरकास्ट और ये सब करती हूँ, और फिर देखती हूँ लेना होगा तो ले लेंगे, नहीं लेना होगा तो नहीं लेंगे, क्या कर सकते हैं। वो पकड़ लेते हैं यार, मैंने देखा है, इसलिए मैं वो वाला नहीं करती। वो दो ही वाली प्रोफाइल बोलूंगी जो मेरी जो मैंने उसको बोली थी, वो तो मेरा फर्स्ट इंटरव्यू था, खैर अब मेरे को आ भी गया है कैसे बोलना, और मेरे को मॉक इंटरव्यू भी दूंगी। फ्राइडे को दे दूंगी। मैं नहीं हूँ, नहीं, ये देख चेक कर ली, तेरा ही होगा 2 डिवाइसेस, एक ये एक ये।
Hi guys, good evening. I hope you can hear me.
Good evening, sir.
Hi. Anirudh, sorry, Arnav, if you could possibly mute your audio because I can hear it from the.
Sure.
Yeah. So just mute your volume and probably you can just put up the headphone. Okay. So I am in a different location today again, and we continue with the class today. Just a second. Let me check if anyone new has joined today who might not have the files. Okay. So I think most of us are from yesterday, so nobody new has joined in. And also, if someone could tell me where we stopped, I think we stopped in time value of money, right? We were continuing with time value of money, right? If somebody could just quickly tell me in the chat box, what topic were we covering yesterday? Till what level did we leave? That's what I'm interested in. Yeah. Karan, I will be sharing your file soon. Oh, sorry, Binil. Binil, I will be sharing the file again. Just give me a second. I think we're still 2 minutes away from the actual time to start, so no worries. And again, we're going to keep it as short and crisp as possible. We'll try to wrap it up by 6:15, so that's about 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so just give me a second. Let me just get my stuff sorted. And let me also share you the link, okay, of the files. And I think I gave you guys one assignment. How many of you were able to do it? Any takers on that? Gave you a very complicated exercise to complete yesterday. Just wanted to know if anybody gave an attempt. So I'm sharing the link now. Okay. So I'm putting it in the chat box. Do get a hold of this. Okay, this is day 2 of the live class, and I'm also putting this in WhatsApp so that everybody has it. So, why is someone trying to get a code? Akanksha, has she joined it? Arnav, I think somebody is having trouble. I have not set any code here. Akanksha, were you able to join in? Let me check. Don't think so. Akanksha has been able to join. Arnav, if you could probably just help out Akanksha. And this is the file I've shared it in WhatsApp group also, and I've also shared now on the Facebook group as well. So wherever you are, get hold of the file. Okay, and we'll start from where we left. And if anybody has any trouble with my audio, do let me know. Any challenges in hearing me, or if my voice is echoing, whatever, just give me a ping and I will try to fix it. Okay, so in Practical Finance Season 2, I have now put in the file as well. There you go. So wherever you are, I think you should get the files. Okay. Good to go. So let's first continue with, I think we left in between yesterday. We were discussing time value of money. Okay. And we reached a stage where we were talking about, retirement planning and how to plan your finances, right? So that's what the sheet I'm going to open up right now. And I would request you to open up the TVM sheet, okay? Open up the TVM sheet. And let me share my screen. Okay, my sheet is ready. Do let me know, type in the chat box if you're ready, just type in ready. Okay, so Naveen has made an attempt. It's good to see. Okay, there's my sheet. Okay. So I think we were in this sheet. I think we already discussed various functions, right? And I gave you an exercise to find out what your future expenses is going to be, or what your current lifestyle is, and in order to maintain that, how much money you would have to start investing from today, considering inflation is about 6%, and the returns you could make from the market or in any possible way would be about 12 to 15%. Right? So I can see some answers out here. So let me just have a quick look on what you guys have posted. Okay, let's give me a second. Okay, anybody else wants to just let me know what the answer is? Okay, so I can see Naveen's answer. Okay. Okay, so let's, Naveen, it's very difficult for me to interpret that because I really don't understand that. Are you talking about the monthly expense? Are you talking about the yearly expense? And how much money do I have to actually invest? So it's not clear. So let's just dive into it and let's actually solve this. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen. All right. Let's consider today's expense. Okay. So I'm just going to use simple terminology so that you actually relate to it. Okay. So today's expenses. Okay. Let's say this is the kind of lifestyle I would like to live today. Okay. And whatever your age is. So let's say I think I had got to a figure of about 95,000, right? So let's say I would like to travel every month, right? I also would like to have some form of entertainment and my basic grocery needs, right? And let's say miscellaneous, right? So miscellaneous expenses, right? Now let's say I travel every month and I would like to spend, let's say, about 30,000, or let's say, yeah, 30,000. Let's keep it 30,000. Okay. Let's say the entertainment cost, which I'm going to make is about 10,000 a month. This is monthly calculation that I'm doing currently. Okay. Let's say the very basic grocery. I'm living a very nice, healthy food lifestyle. So maybe I'm spending about 25,000 grocery. And let's see what the total is, 65,000. And let's say about another 25,000 miscellaneous expenses, which you can put in there. Okay. So let's add this up. So this is just my assumptions of numbers. For you, it might be different. Okay. Depending on what kind of lifestyle you would like to live, right? But I feel that, okay, 90,000 is a fair number in today's market to live a decent lifestyle, even in metros. If you live obviously in tier 2 cities, this will be, I mean, 90,000 will be luxury, right? But basic good stuff, 90,000 is good enough for, I would say, the metros, right? Now, let's consider my age. Okay. I'm currently 32, right? And this is my current age. And let's say I'm talking about my retirement age. I retire about 60. So years left to actually get that money in place. How much? 60 minus 32. Keep doing it along with me, okay? Just take these assumptions. You don't really have to break this down just like that, how I've done it. But for your help, I'm doing this, okay? So current age is about 32, retirement is about 60. So the years left with me to make up the money is about 28. Right? So I've got 28 years to get my act together. Okay, if you have to use that terminology. All right. Now, when would I need the money? From which age would I start needing the money? Can anybody tell me? In my chat box, at what age would I actually need to start using that money? At what age do I actually need that monthly cash flow using my portfolio, which I'm going to accumulate in 28 years? It's going to be 60, right? Because see, look at my question, look at my case. I'm going to retire at 60. So from 60 onwards is when I actually need that money, right? So let's say I'm talking about post-retirement life that possibly on an average people will have is about 20 years. So I need that money for about 20 years, right? To maintain this lifestyle in future value terms. Please understand, 90,000 is today, but it will not be 90,000 in 20 years, about 28 years after, right? So now what I'm going to do is I want to find out the future value of this expenses. Okay. So this is the present value of expenses. Okay. The future value same expenses will not be 90,000. Right. So we're going to use a future value function. I hope we used this yesterday, right? Remember? The FV function. Let's open the bracket. Now I'm going to use, okay, so before that, let's put this assumption somewhere, okay? I don't want to use hard coding. So let's just put an area where I'm putting in this expenses, in this assumptions. So inflation is 6% till 60, okay? Or let's say till expiration, okay? Let's not complicate things because we can change that later on. So my inflation that I'm assuming is about 6%. My returns that I can make is about, let's say 14%, right? Now let's calculate the future value of expenses. So FV, now what is the rate of inflation? 6%. Select that, comma. Number of years for that inflation to increase is how many years? 28 years. Right? Remember, we are trying to do everything annual. Okay? So hence I will be taking all the annual numbers. Comma. Now PMT. This is what is PMT. Any amount, investment, expenses, doesn't matter, which repeats itself every period with the same amount is called as PMT. In that case, my expenses become my PMT, right? But not right now. Right now, what we are trying to find out is the future value of just 90,000. Okay, so PMT is 0 and my PV is 90,000. Okay, and type is 0. Okay, this is exactly the same formula which we discussed yesterday, where we derived the future value formula. PV into 1 plus R raised to N, which we derived it. Right? So the same expense, okay, just multiply this with 12. I just forgot to do that. Yeah. because we were talking annual, so I've just multiplied 90,000 with 12, okay? Because this is the yearly figure. So today's value, today's expenses annually is about what, 10 lakh rupees that I need. And the same amount, let's say about 28 years after today, and considering that these expenses increase at the rate of 6%, would cost me somewhere around 55 lakhs 20,621 rupees.
No. I'll do one thing.
Okay, I will just request people to just keep their mic closed so that no disturbance. Okay. So you could calculate the same way without doing all these formulas by just doing 90,000 into 12 into 1 plus 6%, shift and 6 raised to 28 years. To do the same calculation, okay? So you would get the same amount. Can you get it? So the function obviously reduces the burden for me to write this, but the fundamental is the same. Okay. What you're doing is you're increasing 90,000 into 12, which is about 10 lakhs, into 1 plus 6%, which grows every year. How many times? 28 times. So that gives you a number of 55 lakhs 20,621 rupees. Okay. Now, to give you a perspective, how much would that look like monthly? So that would be divided by 12. So that's about 4,60,000 you would be needing every month to manage this lifestyle. Right? Now you might say this is too much. No, that's fine, because you are trying to look at 4,60,000 from today. Just like yesterday we were discussing, 1 lakh today can buy an iPhone, but about 10 odd years back, you could buy a flat with 1 lakh. So that's just a perception problem, okay? But this is what it would look like. Or probably, if India tries to change its currency or tries to, let's say, change the denomination or try to peg its currency against something else, then it's a different matter. The number would not look so big, but yes, inflation is still there, right? So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. How many of you guys are with me till here? We have just calculated the future value of my 90,000 per month expense annually 28 years from now. Okay. How about the rest of the one? Are you guys with me? Just type with me if you are with me. That's a lot of me. Okay. Thank you. All right. Now, so we have somehow reached to a stage where now we know how much money we will be needing from 60. Okay. Now from 60, how many years are we going to live? 20. Right? So this is how it's going to look. Okay, this is just for visual purpose. You may or you may not do this. So this is 60. Okay. So let me just drag it in 80. So every year I would be needing this cash flow. Right? You can put a dollar sign here. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing it for visual purpose so that it's more easy to understand. Right? Now forget about whatever calculation we did before. Okay. Now, my next question is, if this is what the money is required every year for 20 odd years, how much money would I need at this age in my portfolio to be available? Okay, can anybody guess? So imagine now you are at age 60 and you would need some money in your bank account so that it can pay for this expense. Okay, now what is the assumption that is needed is that how much does my whatever portfolio generate at this age? right? So there is another return assumption that we'll have to take, stating that, okay, my portfolio at the age of 60 obviously will not be taking a lot of risks, right? So maybe it's taking slightly lower risk, but we are somehow able to manage a 10% return, right? Now, how many years do we have? We have 20, right? Am I going to save anything at the end, or I want to finish my entire portfolio? So let's assume today that yes, we will entirely deplete the portfolio, right? PMT, every year the same amount repeats itself is PMT. So you can clearly see what is PMT here. So PMT is going to be this, right? Now what is left? PV. Because all the other data points you have, the only thing you do not have is PV, and that is exactly the question which I asked. So the PV, whatever you calculate, is going to give you how much money you will have in your bank account or your portfolio, whatever it is, at the age of 60, so that you're able to do this kind of expenses. So let's go ahead and calculate PV using the function. Okay. So this is the rate. Number of periods is 20. And PMT is this much. Future value is this much. And type is 0. Do not get in type, just use 0 for now. So the present value, that means the money which I will be needing in the bank account at the age of 60 comes out to be this value. Okay. So now if you want to quickly check in crores how much you have, you can just take the number and divide it by 10 raised to 7. I mean 7 zeros meaning 1 crore. 4.7 crores. PMT is anything which repeats payment. PMT basically means payment. Examples for payment values would be EMI, SIP. All these are examples of payment. Okay, something that cash flow which repeats itself every period with the same amount. So in this case, if you can see the annual expenses, cash flow expenses every period is 55,20,620. Right. So that's my payment. Right. Whereas when I invest lump sum only once, that is PV. Or a loan which you take it only once, right? And you repay it once. So there are only 2 times that transaction is happening, right? Initially when you're taking it and then you're repaying, right? So those do not qualify as PMT. So you would need about 4.7. So I would be needing about 4.7 crores in my bank account at the age of 60 if I want to maintain my current lifestyle of 10 lakhs per year. Right? So that's where we have reached till now. Now, this is another level. Okay, this is what we will be needing at age 60. So the next question is, how much should I start saving from today at the age of 32, so that I meet this target? Right? So that means now the future value is the present value which we calculated before. The rate of return we already assumed above, which is I think 14%, right? The number of periods that we have with us is, which I have, is 28, right? The present value is what we need to, which will take it as 0, right? And we need to find PMT. Now we want to know how much money should I put in every period, every year, for 28 years, so that I actually am able to manage 4.7 crores, right? So just take PMT function, take the rate, you take the N per as 28, you take the PV as 0, the future value as 4.7 crores, type as 0, right? This was a difficult exercise, so that's why I would have been willing to get surprised from you if somebody had attempted this. But nevertheless, I think Naveen gave it a shot. So I need to save annually 1,72,231 and somehow get an asset which can give me about 14% return for about 28 years. It does not have to happen every year. Only thing is I should be somehow be able to manage a CAGR or an average return of 14%. See, return does not have to be linear. Every year it does not have to be 14%. Some year it can be 25%, some year it can be minus 10%, the other year it can be 5%, but on an average, I should be able to make about 14%. So that will get me to the target of 4.7 crores. Now, how does it look monthly? So just divide this, although it would not be exactly precise, but if you just want to look at it, how it might appear so it would appear so this way. So it would be somewhere around 14,352 rupees per month if I have to somehow reach 4.7 crores and maintain a current lifestyle of about 90,000. For you, if you are younger than me, and if you have better or if you are targeting a better lifestyle than this, your amount of investments will increase, right? And it all depends upon the assumptions. So can you find an asset which can give you 14%? I'm sure today at your age, the biggest bet would be either real estate, because real estate at tier 2 cities can give you this kind of returns, and real estates tend to take longer time to mature. But the only thing is, real estate is obviously not very liquid. You cannot sell it very fast. But real estate can beat inflation, and real estate can give you that kind of returns. Okay, and real estate is even better if you are taking leverage. Okay, and that's where the new concept is leverage. How many of you have taken an EMI here? How many of your working professionals have taken an EMI? I'm talking about good EMIs like home loan. No one? Okay. So if you are almost nearing somewhere around 26, 25, it's high time you take some leverage and get used to the fact of taking an EMI. Okay, EMIs are not bad as the general crowd talks about it. That's the only place where the bank gives you decent leverage. When I say leverage, what it means? Can anybody tell me what is leverage? In simple terms, can you tell me what is leverage? Anyone? Okay. So why am I saying this? Okay, I've got one answer. No, not authority is not leverage. Yes, it's in some way it is. If you use it in that terminology, yes, leverage means having some authority over the other person, correct? But in financial terms, what it actually means is, I hope everybody got it till here. Are you okay till here? Just type okay if you're okay till calculating your monthly savings targets. Okay, till here we are fine, right? Okay. Now why am I talking about leverage? Okay. The reason is, if today you want to find an asset which compounds at 14%, it's not an easy task to find that asset. It can be equity. But the problem is you also need money, right? Okay. So let's say today you go to a tier 2 city, okay, and you try to find a 2 BHK flat. Okay, and let's say the rates per square feet is about, and let's say the carpet area is about 1,000. So it cost me somewhere around 30 lakhs, right? And with all the other additional expenses that want to come up with the flat, like registration, stamp duty, etc. Let's take a 20% hike to that, 1.2. That is about 36 lakhs, right? So 36 lakhs is what my expenses, right? Now, how are you going to fund this? Right? So one is obviously put your own money, and the other is you can take a loan, right? So now the idea is how much? So that obviously depends on how much leverage you want to take, right? No, a finance guy like me would try to get as much loan as possible. Okay, why? There's only one reason why. Think of it this way: you are doing SIPs of 14,352, where now you are able to make a 14% return. Right? Your money is costly. What is the interest rate? What is the current home loan interest rate? 6.7. By the time it comes, adding all the margins from the bank, it comes somewhere around 6.9. And what will be offered to you will be somewhere around 7.1. Okay. So this is the home loan rate, right? What is your own money cost? It costs because you're generating 14%, no? So that means cost of your money or cost of equity, which I think we were debating in the WhatsApp group, is this. So your cost of equity is about 14%. That means your money costs something. So your cost of equity is about 14%. So you are always going to favor cheap money, and cheap money is what? Loan. Right? Now, how much? Right? So let's say the ratio. So for now, let's say we put in maximum. Does anybody know how much maximum funding happens in a home loan? Anybody from banking who can probably enlighten us, but I know the number, but you can tell me. 90% is something I would really target to, but generally 85% is what you can get funding for from a good bank. Okay, and the rest of the money comes from 1 minus 85% comes from your own money. Right, exactly. Right? Yeah, 90% up to 30 lakhs, perfect. Exactly. Right, and anything above 30 lakhs, I mean, you will have to get 85% funding. Correct. Absolutely. So I think I think here we've got Dharmesh. I think who's absolutely from the bank. I can just relate. Right. He knows exact legal terms of what is offered to the customers. Wonderful. Okay. So 85% funding is what, let's say, currently I'm getting, and 15% is what I get from own money. So that would translate into how much cash, right? So absolute number, value would be how much? 15% into 36 lakhs. So I need 5,40,000. And 85% multiplied by, is a good number,
45.
Okay. So we have got 30 lakhs loan and 5,40,000 as our own fund. Right? Right? Now, whatever SIP you're doing currently, that gets invested at 14%, and now you got hold of an asset today at 36 lakhs without having 36 lakhs. Imagine if you subscribe to this idea that I will only buy a house when I have the money. How long will it take for you to get there? Imagine if you had to save 36 lakhs and then buy 36 lakhs per flat. Then let me just give you a calculation, okay? So let me just give you a calculation how long it will take you, okay? So you can use the n per function to find this number of periods, okay? So let's say if I'm able to make about 10 to make the money, right? And if I'm saying that how many years is it going to take for me to find the, get this value out there. So let's see how much it actually time it takes, okay? Oops, sorry. Wait, I forgot to take it 10%. Okay, why you give me an error? Let's do it this way. Let's say I'm just going to guess a number, okay? 10. Present value, let's say 0. Future value is 6 lakhs and value 0, okay? So I would have to save at least 2,25,000 annually for 10 years if I want to make 36 lakhs, okay? Considering 10%, okay? Let's say if I want to do it in 5 years, how much would I have to save? About 6 lakhs. Now, considering you are starting at your career at the age of, let's say about 25, 26, and let's say your salary is 6 lakhs. Okay, so 6 lakhs divided by 12, that means 50,000. And you would be required to save about 5,80,000. That means that's almost 100% of your salary. In order to buy the entire flat with cash, right? So almost impossible, right? So what you would do obviously is go and get a home loan so that you just have to get 5,40,000 from somewhere. And that you could obviously save in a year or 2 years, right? So let's say if you are able to do nice savings, then you will be able to make that 540 ready. Now what happens is the game, okay? First of all, you get the interest benefit, you get the tax benefit, all those benefits are there. But now, when the value of this flat increases, right? Let's say we're talking about 10 years, right? And let's say the flat is increasing at the rate of about 12% because it's pure. Okay? So let's say 1 plus 12% every year raised to, let's say 10 years. So this flat after 10 years would cost somewhere around 1 crore, 1.1 crore, right? How much did you invest? 5,40,000, right? So your flat is valued at 1.18 crore, but your own investment was how much? 5,40,000, right? Your bank loan was about 30 lakhs, right? So then after repaying everything, how much did you make? 10 raised to 7 minus 5,40,000 minus 30 lakhs. How much did you make? 75 lakhs, 81,000, 53. So you made, considering that you're selling this flat, okay, you don't have to sell it, but let's say you're selling it, you made 75 lakhs, although in 10 years, but using only 5,40,000. But here, in my previous case, I was to save for 5 years, that was not even looking possible, right? Or else I will have to save for 10 years, by then I've already made the money. But you will not be able to buy that flat in 10 years, no? Because the value of the flat would have increased already. I know integrated cost of housing loan is ignored, right? That's fine. Also, we are ignoring the fact that this flat that you buy, if you're not going to use it, it's also going to give you rental yield. That is leverage. Okay. Now, this is what businesses also try to do. Okay. If I have to start a business, I'm not talking about small business, I'm talking about businesses at larger levels, wherein we are trying to do projects, wherein we are trying to, build roads, build infrastructure, DLF, right? All these real estate projects. All of these are done on leverage because your own money is more expensive, but your bank money is cheap. And using your bank's money, you can lever. The same thing happens in the derivatives market also. Same thing in derivative market, trading, right? If I am trading gold, I'm trading. The market is very different. Okay, this is not a stock market. You don't actually buy gold. You're just trading gold. So here I just need 2% margin. Leverage, right? So just basic understanding of what time only. Why am I discussing all of this? Although I'm discussing at a very brief level, why is all this important? The reason why it's important is because if you understand this, you'll make you money. If you do not understand this, you'll end up paying it. And like how a lot of people are paying the price for not understanding time value of money, right? Investing in assets which are not, I mean, they've fallen into trap into stupid financial products, right? I'm sure a lot of people might agree to the fact that there are a lot of financial products which are so confusing, and they've just robbed people from their wealth. So understanding finance, practical finance, why it is important. It's not just for the job. It's not just to get a job in investment banking equity research. That's not the motivation. The main motivation has to be do it for yourself. The job automatically comes. Okay. Let's go to the next concept. Okay. I hope this was a bit more than what I would have loved to actually discuss, but that's fine. Let's go into now understanding how to calculate returns if every year the cash flow is changing. Okay. Now, come to the last sheet in your workbook, present value and rate. Okay. Present value and rate. When you're ready, let me know. Just type in ready in your sheet. Okay. When you're ready, just put a chat text and write ready. Now I'll continue. Okay. Now, this is a case of a business. Okay, this is what business will look like. You invest 1,000 once, okay, and then you are getting cash flows every period, right? Can somebody tell me how I can calculate returns in this case? Is this function going to work? Can we use this function to calculate returns? If this is how my investment and redemption is going to look like, I invest once and then I'm getting multiple cash flows, and the cash flows are also not same. Okay. Now let me ask you a follow-up question. Okay. Let me ask you a follow-up question. How many of you have learned IRR somewhere in your curriculum or courses or whatever you're doing? How many of you know IRR? Okay, everybody's heard about IRR. So what is IRR? Okay. Now if you look at the bookish definition, yes. Okay, look at the bookish definition. The IRR, internal rate of return, is defined as, and this is just for your reference, we will actually manually calculate IRR. Okay, the rate at which NPV becomes 0. Okay, now you would say, okay, what the hell is this? Right? Let's try to find out. Okay, and we'll do this step by step. I invested 1,000 initially at year 0. Right? So the present value of it is what? 1,000 only, because it's today. But let's say I say that after a year you got 549. Okay, you got 549 the next year, and you have to find the present value of it. Can I find that? Is it possible to find the present value of 549 given the assumptions here? Is it possible to find? What I'm trying to ask you is, what is the value of 549 at year 0? Is it possible to find? How can I find? Can anybody tell me? Okay. Remember what our present value formula was? Present value was future value divided by 1 plus r raised to n. This is what our formula was. What is the future value here? It's 549 divided by 1 plus r. But do I have an r? Can anybody tell me if I actually have a rate of return or a rate at which I can discount 549? No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that I will find R. Okay, so I'm going to keep it blank. So I've selected this cell. Okay, and I'm just doing this formula. See, future value divided by 1 plus R raised to n. Okay, so raised to n is how much? 1. Because we're just talking about finding the present value of 549 to year 0. So this we are talking just about 1 year. So raised to 1. And don't worry anything, okay? You might be saying that we don't have the rate. Don't worry, we will find out the rate. Okay? Just copy this formula. Okay? Just copy this formula to all the years. It is exactly the same value because there is no rate till now. Right? Okay. What is the value of 1000 at year 0? It is 1000 only. Right? Do we all agree till here? There is no rate. My formula which I have used is cash flow divided by 1 plus hypothetical rate raised to the number of years. Okay. What did the definition say? The rate at which NPV becomes 0. Okay. So now this is my question to you. Okay. What if there was a rate? What if there was a rate which if I put it in this blank cells, okay, I'm just going to highlight these cells. If I put it in this blank cells, it would equalize the investment and the present value. That means a hypothetical rate which could make the present or make the present value of cash flows minus initial investment equals 0. So it would just find the rate which equalizes the investment versus what you get. That could somehow be a rate of return, right? So let's try doing that. So let's try putting 20% in all the places. Okay. And put a sum function below. Let's put a sum function here to add this up. Is it becoming 0 at 20%? No. Right? Let's try and I'll just put a formula to link it for all the cells. So I don't have to keep on changing this again. Okay, so let's try 25%. Is it becoming 0? No, it is not able to equalize initial investment versus the future cash flows. Let's try 26%. Is it equalizing? No, it's not. Let's try 28%. Okay, so let's try 28%. It's going beyond 0. So then something we know that my IRR or my rate of return is somewhere between 26 and 28. Right? Now let's try 26.5, almost approaching 0. Let's try 27.2, almost approaching 0, right? Now let's try to use directly the IRR function to find out what the exact number is, okay? So this is what the IRR function actually does. So if you just increase your decimal places and use the IRR function to select all the cash flows, it will give you the pinpoint number, which is 27.272, okay? And if you see out here, we've got what? 27.2, which we used. If you just replace it with the IRR, your NPV will become 0. There you go. So what IRR is actually doing is it's trying to use trial and error method to equalize initial investment versus the future cash flows. And what you just found out here by reducing what NPV means is present value of future cash flows, whatever money you want to get in the future, minus initial investment is your net present value, because you're always interested in net present value, right? Because just the future cash flows does not make sense, because I also need to consider my initial investment, just like in your house case, right? You're going to get 1.1 crores, fine, but you also initially invested something, right? 27.3, no, just calculate IRR. See, the number is actually not very precise, if you see, right? It's extending, decimal places are high. So, and if you try to do this manually to get the exact pinpoint number, it would take you a lot of time. So that's why the IRR function has been done to test it out. But there is one inherent assumption in IRR. There is a problem with IRR. What it assumes is all this money that you're getting every period, right? 549, 268, 284 is getting reinvested in the business at the same rate of return. This is the biggest assumption of IRR. Okay. Now, this is a basic concept which I think all of us had learned in our graduation, or maybe somebody has done CA or whatever, right? But this is how actually IRR works. Now, if you are trying to calculate returns for your SIP, right, and your SIPs vary in amount, right? Let's say sometimes you're doing higher SIP, sometimes you're doing lower SIP, or through the years your SIPs are changing. You cannot use the rate function to find the return. You need to use IRR, and in fact, IRR will also not work because this does not consider the dates. You will have to use a modified version of IRR, which is also called as XIRR. These are just valuation concepts that I'm discussing, okay? And how many of you understood at least the concept of IRR? What it's trying to do? If you understood, just type in understood. The concept, not the complication of it. Okay. What about the rest? Exactly. So I ignore the XIRR for now. I don't want to get into so much complications for just a basic class. Maybe if you continue with us. Yes, okay, great. All right. So basic present value, future value, rate, NPER we discussed, right? Now let's quickly, we just have exactly about 25 minutes to complete one exercise. We're going to do a model, okay? And I think you got, I gave you one access for day 3, sorry. And all the rest of the files you can practice, and you can post your doubts in the Facebook group, and I would be happy to assist you. Let's open day 3 and download the workshop class file. Now, this is where we're trying to use these concepts to build a business plan. Okay. Without this, it wouldn't have been possible to get you to this level. In day 3 folder, you will find a workshop class file, something like which looks like this. Okay. When you are ready, you let me know you're ready. Okay. Just type in ready. And again, this model also, I don't want to give away everything, just trying to spoon feed you this. I'm going to be discussing quite part of it. I'm going to guide you. Because that's how I like people to learn rather than just spoon feeding everyone. Nobody actually understands anything, and later on they're not able to reproduce it in their interviews and in their jobs and in their lives. So what I try to do is I try to give you thoughts. I let you try, and then I give you the answer. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. Now, what we're trying to do. So what financial analysis and valuation is about the fact that every financial decision, right, requires some bit of planning, right? Even if you're purchasing a house, you saw that there is a lot of calculation which is required. If you're starting a business, there's a calculation which is required. You need to make a model of what your future path can look like, right, of your business, right? Similarly, if you're talking about portfolio management, if you want to give services to your clients, if you want to manage their portfolios, being in a bank, if you're in the wealth management division, right, you need a plan. And that is what exactly is financial modeling. Okay. And financial modeling is just a skill. It's just a decision-making skill, right? But in order to understand financial modeling, there are a lot of concepts which are required. Okay? So you cannot just show up one day and you say that I'm going to start building models from tomorrow, right? Or if you say that if I'm going to enter equity research and investment banking, and from tomorrow I will start writing research reports. That's not how it works, right? Because you need a lot of base for that, right? So that's the reason why we spent about 2 days trying to get our Excel and a bit of time value of money in place so that we are able to actually deal with this model. Are we making financials from this information? So are you saying, no, so we are trying to create financial statements using the assumptions of the business, and then we are trying to take a decision whether we want to start this business or not. Every financial modeling in reality is just a decision-making tool, right? And you want to take a decision whether you want to start this business or not. You might want to take a decision whether you want to buy a stock or not. All of these skills which are required in any business is called as financial modeling, and that is what we teach in our full-time course. But still, at a very broader level, we are trying to teach you something here. But if you would like to join our full-time course, which is starting on 20th March, to do that as well, which is about 40 hours of the same kind of training, but obviously at a very deep level. It continues for about 2 months. Okay. Now, here we're trying to set up a car show, a very simple business, a franchisee business, right? And we want to take a decision at the end whether this opportunity is something to pursue. Okay. Now you showroom which is at least 10,000 square feet in space. We need a godown which is about 30,000 square feet in space. We would require to. I hope you can see my screen, right? Yeah. And we would be requiring at least 25 lakhs to renovate the showroom. We would need to deposit at least 6 months rental, and for go down also a 6 months rental. So initially, the amount of money that I'm going to require is initial renovation, deposit for showroom, and deposit for go down. Right now, if we scan the model below, you see there are other assumptions which are written. For example, what are going to be my rental costs? right? So I can see here I've given rental for showroom, rental for godown, and it is per square feet per month, right? Then I have my requirements of staffing. How many staffs do I have? Do I need? And what is going to be their salaries per month, right? What is going to be my increment in salaries every year? What is going to be my operation and maintenance expense as a percentage of revenue, right? What is going to be my debt that I'm going to take for the business, and what is going to be my interest. So this is just the left part of the model, okay? And what are we trying to evaluate? We're evaluating the proposal whether to run this business for 5 years by investing 50% of our own equity amount, okay? And on the right side of the model is what we see is what we're going to sell. So if you can see here, we have different kinds of cars which we have, and these are the number of units we will be able to sell per month. This is the price of the product, and this is the commission we make selling each of the product. Okay. Okay. So now what we can do is we can start solving this model one by one. Okay. So now here, obviously, you can see that all the assumptions are given to us, but that's not how real life works. That is where the work has to be done. And that is what we teach in our course. Right? So deposit for showroom is what? 10,000 rupees per square feet per month. I'm trying to calculate the 6 months rental. So the space is 10,000 square feet. Multiply it with 150 rupees per square feet per month and multiply it with 6. So I would need about 90 lakhs as deposit for showroom. Right? Similarly, let's calculate the deposit for godown. So 30,000 square feet per month multiplied by 30 rupees per square feet per month, which is the rental cost per month, multiplied with 6, which gives you 54 lakhs. Let me know once this is done. Okay. Now, let's calculate how much equity. If 50% is debt, that means the rest of the money is going to come from equity. So let's write in a formula is equal to 1 minus debt percentage. So as we try to do this model, also try to realize why people don't clear interviews for niche investment banking equity research jobs. The reason why they don't clear these interviews is because they don't know all of these things, right? And that's why you've got, no matter where you do your MBA from, or whether you do CFA, or whether you do whichever qualification, in the interviews you would be needing these skills. Okay. So let's calculate now the debt raised. Okay. So debt raised can be calculated as, first we need to add up all the money that we would require. So let's go up and add up these three costs, right? Initial renovation, deposit for showroom, deposit for godown. Close it, multiply it with debt percentage, which we have written as 50%. Right? So that should give us 84 lakh 50,000. Same thing, let's repeat for equity raise. Sum of all the expenses, multiply it with 50%. Okay. Now let's come to the right side of the model, wherein we are trying to estimate the revenue now. Okay. So these are the number of units. So we are selling Prado 1 unit, 30 lakhs is the price, and 4% commission is what we make. So let's multiply these three to get commission per product, which is for Prado, it's going to be the number of units sold per month multiplied with the price of the product multiplied with the commission rate. Okay, so that's 1,20,000. Let's drag the formula down. How do you drag the formula? Just take your cursor to that square if you're new to Excel and drag it down. Okay, so that's your commission per product. How are you guys doing? Is it too much to absorb in a 3-day workshop? Or is it like okay? What do you think? And by the way, how many of you felt that this is something that is worth learning? Is this something useful for your lives and your professional careers? Or is it like you don't need it? Oh, I'm so sorry, Saurav. I did not see your message. Okay. I'm so sorry, Saurav. I missed your message. I would have definitely. I hope he's not left. Oh, I think he did not understand he left. Okay. Okay. Now let's add this up. So that should give us the total revenue we are making per month. 39 lakhs 91,000 is what we're going to make per month. Okay, as per this model. Now we are going to come to financials. Okay, we're going to create the financials for the company, and we are just doing income statement for now, at least in this workshop. In my real course, we obviously do not stop at this. We make balance sheet, we make cash flow, and it's a little more complicated than how it appears to be here. Okay, and if you stick around till the end, I'm also going to show you what you'll be able to make in the main course. Okay, but for now, let's get calculations in place. So 39 lakhs 91,000 divided by 12 is going to give me the annual revenues. Okay. Akansha, we don't really discuss. I mean, strategy is something which is part of business. So business strategies we do discuss, but if you're talking about trading strategies, no, trading strategy is not a part of this curriculum. This is more of business modeling, right? So it's only business strategy. Okay. Now let's increase this revenue by the percentage given below, right? You see here. So we're going to increase this value into 1 plus the rate, and we don't need a dollar sign here because the numbers are written below. Okay. So let's drag this across. So in the last year, we're making about 7 crores. Okay. Now let's come to year 1. Let's calculate the rental for the year 1. Okay. So let's go to the left, and if you see here, showroom is 150 rupees square feet per month, multiplied with, we remember the space of the showroom, multiplied with 12. Now not 6 because it is the yearly rent. And similar thing, do it for go down and salaries. Okay, let's do it for go down and salaries. Salaries is 30 rupees per square feet per month, multiplied with 30,000, multiplied with 12. So we got the rental for go down and we got the rental for showroom. Now, since rental assumptions have been taken as constant, what we can also do is go to the next cell and type in equal to last year so that the number will remain same. Okay, so we're going to keep it constant and drag it. Last year, drag it. Oh, I'm not linked. Correct. Great, that's correct. Correct. Let's come to salaries. So if you see here, we've got 2 columns of data. We've got one is quantity and one we've got as the salaries per month, right? So now we don't want to do manual calculation and just multiply each one and then add up. So what we're going to do is instead use the sum product function. Okay. So all these functions you should be knowing specifically. Excel is tested in your interviews. So it should not, I mean, you have to be good at Excel. So we spend quite a bit of time learning Excel in our course, even though if you're not coming from the background. Okay, so that sum product, what you do is you take array 1, array 2. So if you see here the function, it looks something like this: array 1, array 2. Array means just a collection of cells, right? So let me select the first array, comma, select the second array, close the bracket, multiply with 12. So 22 lakh 32,000, right? Now, this salary, if you see on the left hand side, I've taken an assumption that it increases by 10% per year. Okay. So let me increase this by the required rate, which is 10%. And put a dollar sign. I hope you remember F4 was the shortcut key for dollar sign. and drag it. So your last year's salary should be somewhere around 32,67,871. Okay. Now operations and maintenance is given directly as 15% of revenue. So we're going to link 15%, put a dollar sign to that, multiply it with revenue. Okay. Why we have taken 15%? The reason why we in modeling we tend to model the percentage because it's really impossible to take each and every nitty-gritty expenses. So what we try to do is we try to look at the industry standard. So for example, if you're talking about, let's say a retail business like this, what usually is the operational maintenance expense, which if it comes down to about 15%, we take that assumption, right? Let's enter and drag it. So that's your operation and maintenance expenses, right? Now, we're almost to the end of at least the financials of the company. And don't worry, I'll share you this file. So in case, because we have limited time, right? So I'm trying to make the best of it. So in case it was too fast, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it as slow as possible. That's the reason why we try to do it in different days, try to split it in days. But I will share you this file and I will be available on the Facebook group. I personally, by the way, manage that group. So don't think that it's just some third party who's replying to those messages. In the Facebook group and WhatsApp number, I think everybody of you have my WhatsApp number. So that's my personal number. So I personally reply to those doubts. And I'm also part of different financial modeling communities where I do the same. Okay. So operating profit is revenue minus sum of all the expenses. Now, you might have always heard about operating profit in your lives. What does it mean from a business angle? It means that whenever you're trying to learn finance, you have to learn it from the perspective where it is required. So, for example, when we are trying to look at time value of money, we were trying to look at it more from a personal finance perspective, because so that we build the perspective. See, learning a skill is very easy. I mean, I can run you through models, complicated models, and you'll be like elated, and then you'll be very happy. Yes, we learned financial modeling. But the problem is the perspective, right? So when you're making a business model, you have to think like an entrepreneur, right? So what is operating profit? If you look at the expenses above operating profit, what are your expenses? Rental, salaries, operation, maintenance, and expenses, right? Now, for every business, it is very critical that the revenue should be enough to directly cover the operating expenses. If we are not able to cover the operating expenses from my revenue, from the revenue that I get from the customers, then there's something wrong with the business, right? It might be either marketing expenses, or the product is too cheap, or there are some costs which are not sustainable, right? So the entrepreneur has to rethink on how to get their operating margins higher. Very important. Okay. What happens after the operating profit is okay, it can be managed. Okay. Now let's calculate interest expense. We're keeping it simple interest, so it is 13% per year. Put a dollar sign to that and multiply it with debt, which is 84,50,000. So that comes up to about 10,98,500. So that's my interest expense. Profit before tax, right? This is where we get taxed by the government, right? Obviously, at the revenue level, we pay GST, but then now we have to pay income tax also. So operating profit minus interest expense will give you profit before tax. Now, we have obviously not had depreciation on all those other expenses because this model is more of a basic, I can say an awareness model of what is financial modeling. But the real models obviously get very complicated. We're talking about depreciation, we're talking about taxes, different kinds of taxes, modeling taxes, right? Now let's calculate taxes. That is profit before tax multiplied by 35%. Okay, and finally, after taxes, you reduce the profit before tax with tax. Gives you the net profit. This is where I'm going to stop the modeling. This is the spoon feeding part. In fact, I'm going to share this model with you. How many of you want this model? Solve till here. Tell me. Just write model in the chat box if you need the model. Okay, if you need this model completed till here, do let me know in the chat box. Just type in model. I will send you across personally the model. Now, after this is time value of money. Okay, this is where accounting stops and time value of money starts. And I think we all have had enough concepts, okay, to learn yesterday and today first half to calculate the next part. Because I've taught you IRR, I've taught you NPV, I've taught you present value, future value, rate. The next part is what I want you to solve, okay, and send it across in the WhatsApp group in any mode. I mean, if you want to send it in the Facebook group, you can do that wherever possible and calculate the returns. This is the first task, post class. The second is I also taught you yesterday, if you remember, to make a data table. I don't know if you remember this correctly, but I also taught you how to create a sensitivity analysis of your business to test different scenarios of the same business model that you made. Right? Yesterday, the model was obviously appearing very simpler, but Excel is capable of repeating this IRR calculation again here multiple times. Now, let me quickly just show you what kind of models or complications, how does the real life look like, okay? If you could just bear with me, I will quickly show you what kind of models we tend to, you should be targeting to make yourself and the kind of ones which we actually teach you in our full-time course, okay, full-time class. So this is an equity research model. How many? I'm a lot of people obviously want to make a career into investment banking, right? So this is how modeling looks like. The model that we just did was like a brief, just a starter or a warm up. This is a model made on. I mean, this is an old model. Obviously, I'm just showing it for description purposes. But this is one of our students who had made it in way back in 13. There are so many models. I'm just showing you random ones. Made on a publicly listed company. So this company, obviously, everybody might be able to relate. Tata Steel, right? It's listed in NSE. And look at the depth of the model which has been made. Okay, so this is the company overview. Right? You should know what to show in my company overview, right? And in the interview, somebody might ask you, pitch me a stock, right? Or what companies have you been following today? Why is he asking you all these questions? It's not because from tomorrow he's going to give you Tata Steel to follow. It's because he wants to test whether you have the interest in this and have you done something for the interest. So if you have done modeling, if you've learned financial modeling properly in a full-time program and you've made something like this, you've got a lot of things to talk about. Okay? So you might be able to talk about how its revenue is divided across geography, right? How much revenue is coming from India, how much revenue is coming from outside? What are the business segments, right? How much is coming from steel? How much is coming from other revenue sources, right? You should be able to talk about their operating margins, right? So these are financials. If you see on the red side, these are all the actual historical data, and 3 years is what he has tried to forecast. Okay, no business model extends beyond 3 years of forecasting. Okay, you can make max up to 5 years, But then anything beyond 3 years of forecasting is actually crap because nobody can foresee so much. Okay, you can't look beyond 3 years. I mean, imagine even the best of the best equity analysts cannot have a perspective of a business beyond 3 to 4 years because you don't know what happened. Like nobody knew COVID would happen, right? And the entire dynamics of doing business would change. Nobody can predict that. If any analyst would have predicted the Six Sigma events or anything technological changes, I mean, that analyst would not be an analyst. He would be a very big investor, right? So forecasting is a science, okay? But assumptions, taking those assumptions, researching on those assumptions, because you can just write anything here. So if you see here, the YOY growth is coming out to be 0.55%. But this 0.55% growth is coming out of a lot of equity research which is happening in the background, right? And these are just the outcomes that you see in the P&L, balance sheet, cash flow. But the real stuff is happening in the research, for example, the business segment research, right? So this assumption, see what is they doing? Segment revenue. What the analyst is trying to do in this model is trying to forecast whether the segmental revenue will change or not. Now that will only happen once you sit down, look at the annual reports. You should know how to read the annual reports. You should know how to look at the MD&A, management discussion analysis, the on-call reports. All of these things have to be read properly, right? Similar thing you have to do in the cost model, right? How can you forecast the cost of a company or stock, right? Because you have limited information. You have the information which is available in the annual report, right? So you might also have to go and talk to the suppliers, right? Or you might have to talk to the customers on what their perspective is on the product which this company is selling. And that's how these assumptions are built. And that's what makes a good analyst from just an analyst who is actually just working in a company, right? Or just making models. So making models is a different thing. But in the equity research interviews or the investment banking interviews, whatever you might call it, right? The most important thing is understanding business. Okay, your concepts have to be clear. How you estimated these numbers, right? You can't just take, even if you take the model and go and present this, let's say even if you had this model with you, right, during the interviews, it's not going to be of any help unless you're able to explain it and justify. And that is the reason why a lot of people cannot, they're not able to get into equity research. So this is the final sheet, right? Now you might say that, okay, valuation. So this is valuation, right? This is the final sheet on valuation where we have used the DCF model and we have found out the intrinsic value, right? So similar companies we cover in IT also, we cover companies in manufacturing. We cover companies on project finance, right? So this is just an equity research model that we cover, but we also cover project finance. So let me just show you what a project finance model looks like. So project finance model is, I think, more exciting than even the equity research model. The reason why project finance model is more exciting is because there is absolutely nothing to start with. Okay? At least in an equity research model, you have the business is running already, right? But if you talk about projects, now what are projects? Supposing we're talking about, let's say, a road construction project, right? So I don't know if you've heard about IRB, right? The company which makes national highways, right? Now they come and bid for these projects which the country or the government says that, okay, we want to build a national highway between point A and point B. So the government does not build national highways, right? The government just gives the contract to a contractor or a company, right? And the company has to actually take the risk, raise the money, and bid on the project and construct the project, complete it, earn the returns, and exit. So that's the reason why it's called project finance, right? Now this is one of the project finance models that we cover in the class, wherein we are trying to set up a sugar cane factory. Right? Now this is because we don't have anything. In equity research, you already have everything, right? The business is already running. In project finance, You have to start from zero. And creating templates for project finance models is, I think, more challenging than even an equity research model, right? But obviously, the fundamental is same. We are trying to forecast the expenses. We are forecasting the sales. We are forecasting what the balance sheet would look like. We are forecasting how the taxes and tax modeling in project finance is. I mean, you have to talk about. You have to have understanding of how the taxation works. Taxation is not just directly GST and income tax. Right? There are tax loss carry forwards. If you make a loss in 1 year, you can claim those losses for the next year. So you have to model that, and that can make a huge difference in the return calculation, right? So all of these have to be modeled, and this is what we teach in our financial analysis and valuation course, which is one part of it, which is financial modeling. But we obviously start from the basics. Now this is the last sheet, which is returns. Now returns and valuation is a little different from project finance than equity research. Because in equity research, you're trying to find the price. In a project finance model, what you're trying to find is, because you're presenting this model to the bank, so the bank is going to either approve it or reject it, right? So you have to show whether you are able to somehow manage the interest expense, right? And based on that, the bank will actually approve the loan for the project finance, right? And this is the IRR calculation. So IRR calculation is obviously a part of modeling, but the main stuff is whether the business can actually cover the interest expense or not. So if you get interested, this is the kind of skill I think that everyone should learn. I'm not just saying people who are in finance specifically, or people who are willing to make a career into this. I think in your careers, there will come a time sooner or later where you will have to make these plans. You will have to make business models. Because even if you're a marketing manager, you will have to make a business plan, right? Without understanding, without putting the numbers into a model, how can you decide this is what I'm going to do? If you're a portfolio manager, you will still need this. But yes, if you're specifically targeting a niche job like research and IB, then this is obviously a non-negotiable skill. And we teach it at the best price. We have the lowest price of the course in the market. You can go and check anywhere. We teach at about 9 grands. I think the general market price of this course is about 40,000. And Apaches are starting from 28. But it does not stop here. We have not still completed the model. I would like you to please give an effort to calculate the final IRR, and I will be doing a live Q&A tomorrow morning in Facebook. I will be available to solve any queries live tomorrow in Facebook group. So first of all, thank you everybody who has joined in, who has taken the time to join us in the workshop. And I hope we were able to add some value to you. If you have any queries, any suggestions, please feel free to contact me on WhatsApp or Facebook group, and I'll see you next time. All right. So thank you so much for your time. I highly appreciate it. I hope you got some value, and I'll see you for the class. Thank you. Thank you, Dharmesh. Thank you, Akamsha. It means a lot. Abhishek, I couldn't much interact with you, but thank you so much for joining in. Sania, I hope I did not confuse you too much today. And Saurabh, thank you so much for joining in. All right, so see you. Bye-bye. I hope you have a nice weekend and best of luck. Thank you.